Welcome to another episode of Off Track with Zach. I am Zach, and thank you for joining me today. Today, I wanted to talk about something that is kind of ongoing right now, like this big thing. Lindsay Clancy, the court case about the mother who took the life of her 3 children, and now the court is fighting to see if it was insanity due to the postpartum depression, some mental illness, or if she was criminally responsible and should be held criminally responsible for her actions. And now, as a believer and as a criminal justice major, there are 2 sides to this kind of argument on how we should view this case. And of course, I believe the believing aspect of Christ should always come first. So I'm going to break down what's kind of been happening, talking about both sides, and then trying to input on how the Christians themselves should act on this type of situation. And the question I have for today's kind of podcast is how should we Christians balance the justice, mercy, mental illness, and personal responsibility when something bad happens or something horrific happens? Because we have 2 sides. We got the flesh and we got the spirit. And the flesh sees this type of action and just condemns, right? We can see this. There are 2 sides to this trial case right now. One side is that type of what they're calling like a women movement. They're wearing pink. They're going out and showing support to this woman. And they are saying that postpartum depression and all these other mental illnesses should be held the culprit. Some people are saying the husband. We're not getting into that. We're getting into the 2 sides of the coin on this exact problem, on where people stand against or with Clancy. That one side says that mental illness is a terrible thing, postpartum depression is a terrible thing, and we should stand with her because you can't really control those actions in those situations where you can't really feel. And then on the other hand, you have the other side, which says what she did was evil, what she did was terrible, and she can go straight to the Satan's playhouse, right? They're saying, whatever, you're condemned, you did something terrible, you killed children, now get out of my sight, you're done. And I believe each side has an important aspect to it, but it's all ignoring the base reality of the belief in Christ. One side, the mental illness side, has a strong point. Should we support a woman who has experienced some sort of mental illness or some sort of mental presence that has blocked her ability to understand right from wrong? Should we as Christians follow and believe that could allow a woman to do such acts? And I believe yes and no. So, when we were created in the image of God, which basically means in a long, long list of things, we were created with an innate value. Meaning that it doesn't matter if you're a murderer, it doesn't matter if you're a drug dealer, it doesn't matter if you consider yourself a good person, it doesn't matter if you're a believer or unbeliever, you have a value as a human being. It does not matter, that cannot be taken away from you because you are a human being. Now, what does that mean in this sense? That means, yes, we should care for the fact that she has some sort of mental illness or something take precedence in this point and moment in time in which everybody couldn't understand. She herself couldn't understand why she would do such a thing. Now, that doesn't mean that the other side isn't right as well, because what the mental illness side lacks is judgment and punishment. And as we know, on the other side of the coin, we do have fleshly judgment, fleshly punishment. We have the ability to judge the flesh, the actions, and the intentions of a person here on earth. So, you do something like this, you should be punished for the things you did. You can't just be let off because, we can't judge you because we care for you and love you so much. No, because a part of love is justice. And that's the side that a lot of people on that side of the coin don't understand, is that there are two things that are required in situations like this from believers, and that is justice and mercy. And mercy is compassion, caring, but judgment is the punishment aspect. So, don't take me out of context. I am not excusing what this woman has done in any way, shape, or form. I am saying that she is a human being who still deserves dignity and still deserves the value of our prayers. She is still a human being, no matter if she did something that is found guilty or something that is found not guilty due to reason of mental illness or insanity or however they're going to plea it like that. But on the other hand, we can't use that type of Christ love to pardon the actions. So when people on one side are saying, how are you going to be a Christian because you want this person to be punished so bad, or you want this person to have the death penalty so bad? But then on the other side, they're saying, how are you going to be a Christian for not wanting this to happen? I think what we failed to realize, it's both sides are right. They're just trying to fight each other because they're not looking at it the same way. So, as a believer, I believe there are two things we must do. One, care for this person, care for the family, care for the community, pray for the person, pray for the community, pray for the husband, pray for the children, pray and care for the people involved and the people impacted. But at the same time, we must understand that with that love comes the justice. Because without the justice, then the world would be chaos. Like I said, I'm a criminal justice major. So I understand, I enjoy our justice system. I believe our justice system is solid. I believe there is flaws in it. But at the end, I believe that it is a necessary thing to prevent and treat evil on a fallen world. So as a believer, we should care for this person, pray for this person, but still use the fleshly judgment and use the fleshly punishment that comes with it through our justice system. So I'm not excusing this woman's actions. I am simply saying that it isn't a closed book thing where she did this and then you turn your back and be like, whatever, screw her. We can't do that as a believer. Now, as a central Bible verse, because I don't want to just say a bunch of things and expect you to follow without the foundation of the gospel itself, of the Bible itself, of the scripture itself, because if I'm like, this is what you're supposed to do, and then don't give the Bible, how do you know that what I'm saying has any validity to it? So I want to put your focus on Micah 6:8, which states, "He has told you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God?" Now, how does that connect, right? It kind of explicitly states the two sides to this case. One side is pure justice. It doesn't want the other side. It wants, I want a guilty verdict and I want the punishment that follows. But this other side is sticking hard to the love kindness. It is not her fault. She had this mental type of impairment, so she can't be judged because of it. But people forget that in a Bible verse, let's go back to English class. Ands and ors. Or means you can choose either one, and means you have to do both, right? But to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God. It's just one of those verses that explicitly states the two sides of a coin that is currently being shown in the public. One side only wants justice, one side only wants kindness. But what happens when you try to put the two together? You see these arguments and these fights on social media. My goodness. You could go into any Facebook post about it and just see a war taking place in front of you. It is the craziest thing, and both sides claim to be a Christ-following person. And am I saying they're not? Absolutely not. I don't have that type of judgment. You cannot judge the spirit. You cannot judge the soul. You can only judge the actions, intentions, and flesh of a person. That is what our justice system focuses on. So you can see these wars take place right in front of you, and it is the craziest thing, especially when they both claim to be believers. And then what ends up happening is one believer says to the other, "You're not a real believer." And then that one's like, "I'm the real believer, you're not the real believer." And then they go and they find and pick out the specific Bible verses that state about love, or that state about punishment, or state about judgment. And they're basically just going back and forth at a war that means nothing, because at the end, both of them have valid aspects of Christ, but they're not putting them together. You can love and care for somebody and still want the punishment. And you can want the punishment for somebody but still have mercy and care. They're not different. They can go hand in hand. They are attributes of God that were given to us to express, to show Christ in our lives. But people are taking them and then separating them and saying they can't go together. But as believers, we should put them together because Christ has put them together. I mean, Christ is love. It states so. Christ is love. But it also says he is justice. At the end of the road, we are going to be judged, but he loves us. So can he love and judge at the same time? Absolutely. That's what righteous judgment is. That is what we are supposed to have, is righteous judgment, which is basically mixing love, justice, and mercy into one. And then using that to correctly judge the actions you have committed against another person, or another thing, another item, whatever it may be. So when it comes down to this specific case with Lindsay Clancy, again, I am not here to say if she did it or she didn't. Now, my personal opinion is she should be held criminally responsible. However, I still believe that she is worth our care and the justice system's time to go through the evidence, and whatever the jury says, I will support the final decision, because I believe that is how the justice system and the judgment works. If they find her to be not guilty due to the insanity and she has to get sent to a state hospital, pray for her, pray for the family, pray for whoever you need to in support of that decision. And on the other hand, if she is sent to prison and you're like, no, you still pray for her family in the decision that was made. Pray for her now before the decision is made. Let the justice system take place. Let the people do let the jury do the decision making, and whatever comes from that comes from that. As a believer who is not on the jury stand, who actually has no ability to decide if she is guilty or not, or has no ability to decide the outcome of the case, we need to focus on two things: to love and to care for this person, while maintaining the judgment and the application that she cannot just do whatever because of some sort of mental illness, right? The Bible also states in Galatians 6:7, whoever or whatever one sows, that will he also reap. Basically stating, the crimes you have committed, whatever you have done, it will come back to you. You know, people can use that for good things. When you do good, good will come back to you. You do bad, bad will come back to you. It doesn't matter. You cannot be excused for a mental illness. You cannot be excused fleshly for a mental illness. Now, if someone has a true mental disorder or a mental problem and they physically can't control themselves, or they just don't understand, they can't understand, then there is an aspect to the spirit to which we cannot understand, right? In 1 Samuel 16:7, it says, "Man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks to the heart." And we say this all the time. It's not about what I do or how I act. It's about how the heart is intending it to be. So in these type of situations, we can only act on the fleshly actions, right? We can't act on the spirit. I've said that before, and I'll say it again. That will be something I am firm in. You can judge the flesh, you cannot judge the spirit. It is not our job to judge the spirit, because we do not know what the spirit is holding within that person's life. So could someone be suffering mental illness and they physically don't understand? They just can't, because their brain is so miswired through sin and the fallen world that they just don't understand. That is absolutely possible. However, it doesn't mean you get away with it on the world after you're committing a crime. Now, after the time's up, and as we read, the Lord looks at the heart. If you literally can't comprehend or understand what's going on, how it's right or how it's wrong, I believe you can still make it to heaven. Now, I believe there are some presuppositions to that. You still have to understand Jesus. You still have to try to do right, even if you don't understand what right and wrong is. But at the end of all things, we can only judge the case at hand. We can't judge what happens after, right? So I'll leave off with kind of what I've been saying literally the entire time, because I believe it is the most important thing as a believer in these type of situations. No matter if it's a case, no matter if it's just some horrible event that took place. Firstly, you pray for the people involved. You pray for the people impacted. You pray for whoever was a part of the situation, and you pray for the world to heal from a situation like this. But you can't ignore the judgment, the justice, and the punishment that comes with the actions involved. So don't take me out of context and say I'm defending this woman, and don't take me out of context saying I condemn this woman, because they go hand in hand. There is compassion in judgment. It is a righteous judgment. It is putting together the love and the mercy and the Christ-like features to come to a conclusion. And I believe we should do that in situations like this across the entire world every time they happen. Thank you for joining me with another episode of Off Track with Zach. If you enjoyed, please consider following me. Ask questions if you want to. If you're watching this on Spotify, thank you for listening. Go follow the YouTube. I post weekly questions with Zach, where I answer questions you have about any topic, religion related. And if you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, go follow the TikTok. I try to post more like short, like motivational type things on there every day. But thank you for joining and listening in, and see y'all later.